right, I am going to kick things off. Welcome everybody to our InterSystems programming contest. I'm Dean Andrews, Head of Developer Relations at InterSystems. We are very excited to kick off our first programming contest of 2023. I hope you all had a great break over the holidays and are excited to get started this year as we are. Let me share my screen. I'm going to walk you through the topic and some of the contest rules, and then I'm going to pass it over to Raj, who will give you some advice on choosing a project for this contest. So this contest is a developer tools contest, and we're asking you to submit an application that helps developers develop faster or contribute high quality code or helps in testing, deployment, support, or monitoring of solutions on InterSystems Iris. The contest duration is from today, January 23rd through February 12th. The total prize pool is a whopping $13,500. Here are the requirements for the contest. You must submit an application to our Open Exchange open source app gallery. You can submit a new application, or you can significantly improve an existing application that you've built. And our team will be reviewing all of the applications before they're approved for the contest. The application should work on InterSystems Iris Community Edition. The types of applications that match here can be UI frameworks, IDE-based applications, database management, monitoring, and deployment tools, and so forth. This is not a restrictive list. It's just meant to give you some ideas of developer tool areas that might work. The application must be open source and published on our InterSystems GitHub. You must include a README file in English, which should contain the installation steps and either a video demo and or a description, a text description of how the application works. And one developer can enter the competition with a maximum of 3 applications. As always, we have 2 categories. We have the expert judging panel, and these are the prizes for 1st through 10th place, you can see here. We also have community voting, and these are the prize for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. Yes, and so we sometimes have ties for categories, and in those cases, the prize money is shared among the winners. So again, the deadlines, the contest begins today. The deadline for submitting an application is February 5th. So keep that in mind, very important. There is a voting period between February 6th and February 12th. You can continue to improve your applications during the voting period, but you must submit the application by February 5th. Who can participate? Any developer community member, excluding InterSystems employees. If you're new to our InterSystems developer community, you can create an account. It is free to do so. We encourage developers to team up, and we allow from 2 to 5 developers working on one team. Don't forget to highlight all of the team members in the README of the application and submitting their developer community profiles in that README. We have some helpful resources to help you get started. These are a list of existing applications on our Open Exchange app gallery that are developer tools you can take a look at. We also have some great templates that you can use for getting started that involve Iris development, Fire, interoperability, analytics, and so forth. There's some great getting started information for people new to InterSystems Iris here. And there's also some information about our package manager tool that makes it very easy to deploy applications. So check that out. And then we do have step-by-step instructions for publishing an application to Open Exchange and submitting an application to one of our contests. So just look up this page in our developer community that I'm stepping through. That's the InterSystems Developer Tools Contest announcement page. You can ask questions in the developer community. You can actually just reply to this announcement page, or you can also contact the community through the InterSystems Discord server. So again, we're very excited to see what you work on. I'm going to pass it over to Raj.
Hey, everybody. Know most of you, but good to see a few new faces on the list here on the screen. I have a very short presentation, which I will go through quickly. Okay, so I thought a useful thing to do for the kickoff of the year in this particular contest would be to give you a little bit of insight into the way we are thinking about what's happening this year and how we're thinking about the product foundation and what areas would be of particular interest for investment from the community. So you could think about getting into a community submission for a lot of different reasons. Well, the first one could be just to, be interested in winning the prize. But I think most people are motivated just as much by the idea of providing a tool which would be useful to lots of developers within the community. And so for that reason, it's often good, not to step on the toes of internal InterSystems investment, because you'll just be, competing with obviously the community will probably choose the thing that's supported by a large organization over something that's unsupported. So, if you really want to get a lot of usage and eyeballs on what you build, you might want to avoid some of those areas. Also, I see these contests as a great place to get ideas from real users that are our heaviest users about what's really useful and makes their life more efficient. And so I'm going to go through some of the areas I think you should focus with those ideas in mind. So first of all, I thought it'd be useful to let you have a small window into where we're investing internally, our efforts. So we hope to, very soon, at least in this year, come out with a new SQL client, which is much better than what you currently see in the management portal right now. For many, many, many years, you've been able to go into the management portal and browse some relational tables and run some queries and have some, insight into into query plans and statements. But we're making a big effort this year to really improve that, modernize it, make it much more useful and valuable. We also have some work going on in the unit testing area within VS Code to try to encourage people to do more unit testing. because as we know, probably a vast majority of code that's deployed in Iris doesn't have unit tests at all. So I constantly want to, push people to do that work. And we hope soon, it's actually a project that's out on the community right now, but it's very nascent and can use improvement, is Jupyter notebook support. So VS Code has a very solid, mature Jupyter notebook support within the IDE, but you can't use it with InterSystems Iris right out of the box. And we are trying to make that really easy, not only with object script development within a Jupyter notebook, but SQL and Python, embedded Python, particularly. So that work is going on. And we also have an effort which we hope to come out with at some point this year to make data onboarding, loading data via the load data command much easier by putting a nice user interface around that server-side tool, which came out recently in the product. Now, where I'd like to focus for a great source of ideas, keeping in mind the areas we're investing in, is the ideas portal, which many of you have used. Can I click on these? So the link I'm showing you here goes to the ideas portal with the community opportunity status selected. So in case you haven't noticed, I think everybody is familiar with the ideas portal, but if you're not, you can go to ideas.intersystems.com and submit absolutely anything that you're interested in having InterSystems pay attention to. Post your idea there. And we will categorize it, sort it, triage it, do all the things to try to get it in front of the right people, depending on the area of the product. And one thing we do along the way there is if an idea we think is pretty good, but doesn't quite fit into our product roadmap or our ability to execute on it in the shorter term, we classify it as a community opportunity where we think it would, make a lot of sense to do, but for whatever reason, it makes more sense to do in the community than internally. And so you can get that list. Right now, we're almost at 50 ideas here, which have been categorized as a community opportunity. I'm going to highlight some of these here. Loved the idea of the code snippets library that was submitted a few months ago. So VS Code has the ability to have you build your own code snippet and put it into the IDE, but it's not so easy to share. They don't really have a tool for sharing those code snippets across people who aren't working within the same organization. So this idea really gets at, hey, how can we kind of have an open exchange for code snippets? And that would be really interesting to pursue. There's a whole area of interoperability adapters. Obviously, data load, ETL, is always a huge area in the database business to explore. And in particular, we've done a great job of including health-related formats in the product, fully supported, but a lot of the more sort of mainstream, out of the ordinary, at least for our traditional customer base, formats have not been covered. Some of the ideas that are on the ideas portal are integrating Google Docs or Apple Health information, and maybe even JSON data loading. There are a lot of things that could be added to the platform in terms of the ability to load data in easily. And there are, the list of ideas goes on and on and on here, and I definitely recommend taking a look through these to see what ideas already have some support. The number of votes drops off quickly from the top, but a lot of these are still, I don't think everybody knows about this portal yet. So you could still find an idea with just a few a few votes, and if it, you know, if it seems really interesting to you, I would highly advise looking into it, and maybe even advertising it on a community in the next few weeks, and see if you can get people to jump in there and take a look and maybe vote for it. It's a way to validate your idea even more. And finally, I'll finish with managing Iris. So as everybody here knows, probably, the systems management portal is pretty old and it's getting a little bit crusty. And we are, you know, exploring ideas about how we would evolve that tool set. I don't think we would create, you know, something that works exactly the way the current SMP does. So that is to say, you know, all ideas are welcome. It's really greenfield. How do you actually manage your development efforts? How do you manage applications? How do you look at system operation? There's so many different facets to that. And I'm not sure that the current SMP captures the way the modern developer works or wants to work. So I'm really interested. I would, you know, personally love to see completely different metaphors and concepts around how you would holistically look at your code base, not just the code itself, but in documenting it and testing it, deploying it, all those, the full life cycle of application development and deployment. So being in the developer experience area, that's most interesting to me. A lot of other people just care about the platform and is it healthy and how is it performing, and am I getting near the place where things are going to go wrong even though they seem fine today. So, you know, all those aspects of managing a big or small instance of Iris are very interesting. And I'd add to that, you know, one of the things that the SMP has been designed for is mainly single instance on-premise deployment. We're more and more increasingly interested in how does Iris look and feel and work in a Kubernetes cloud deployment, and how does that change the way people want to, how does that change the way people can look at the system? What different things would they want to see? How does that make things more complicated? Can we make that simpler? So all those kinds of things, I think, are areas of really fertile for your ideas and energy. With that, I guess I'll send it back to Dean. I'm looking forward to seeing, as always, everything that you come up with.
That's awesome. Thank you, Raj. Very helpful, great background, and great plug for the ideas portal there as well. We have a pretty big crowd on this contest kickoff meeting. Are there any questions from the people on the call?
I don't have a question, but maybe while we are waiting for questions, I can also wish share my wishes for the developer tools.
Yes, please.
So dear developers, if you happen to think about an idea what to do, I'd appreciate if someone will add the dev tool that will help with interoperability productions. I mean, that will help to export or introduce to source control the different elements of interoperability productions. Because currently it's not working out of the box. And yes, there is a tool, Git source control by Timothy Levitt on OpenExchange. It supports some components, but not all of them. And yes, and it needs some setup. So I mean, if someone could come up with out of the box, very simple way to export the artifacts of interoperability productions. So while I'm editing them in the different UI components, have these artifacts in in files directory, that would be just amazing. Thank you in advance. So do you have any questions? Yes, Jeff Reed says that there is a package from George James, but the George James package is focused as, so George or James could correct me, or John Murray correct me if I'm wrong, that it is focused on server-side development only. And it's not free. So yeah, but and it is also one for server-side development. So if you develop in Docker, so what can you do? Yeah, so I mean, there is not support, no such support yet. Yes,
it will work with multiple instances. So you treat each of your if you're working in one dev instance, I'm working in another one, they're just part of the network. We do have scenarios where each developer has their own environment. So when you say server side, it's just that the code doesn't have to be constantly written out to a file system and written back into an Iris environment. It's only server side in the sense that it's internal to the Iris environment, which is where you want to be because that's what knows it best.
So do you say, John, that I can try to use it for development with Docker images?
Yes, you can.
I give it a try. So, so is there any like a trial period?
The trial versions are not designed for networked environments, but the trial version, as in the free, perpetually free version, solo edition, is not networkable. But we have customers in the field who use the non-free version of Deltangi working across large numbers of server instances. And some of those server instances are personal developer instances, whether they're in a container or on the bare metal of their workstation, doesn't matter to us.
Yeah,
it's all network.
And also, John, correct me if I'm wrong, that Deltangi it doesn't work with files. It works completely on Iris side, right?
It works, it's native it deals in the Iris side. It will work with files. It can manage files, but it doesn't say that everything has to be in a file before it can be managed.
So we still have some demand for if you, okay. So it's never-ending story with developer tools, yeah. And also another, we don't see any more questions. Not very much questions.
Yuri
yet.
has one.
Yuri. Okay. So Yuri says create Iris support to famous frameworks like Hibernate will be considered as a dev tool app. So I say Raj
Yeah, I would say so. It's definitely a developer tool. It would be valid for this competition. And we do have some Hibernate. We have an older Hibernate out there. I see you shaking your head, Bob. Is there an update on that?
There is a new update, a new Hibernate driver that is currently in development internally. So that is something that we will be doing and supporting, hopefully relatively soon. But I think Yuri's core question is a really good one, which is, hey, is a developer tool something that integrates with a well-known framework that we don't have a driver for today? And I think that it does, but this isn't my contest. So Dean and Evgeny probably are the final word on that one.
Okay. So thanks, Yuri. So you're welcome with this tool. I think any more questions?
I have something. It happens that I developed some project right before the news about the project, about the contest, but it's supposed to be like CLI for SQL, new terminal with IntelliSense and so on, with coloring. But yeah, I hope I will manage some minor issues with DB API driver, because it's a bit different version. But yeah, I hope I will use it. It should be okay, I think.
So thank you, Dmitry. We are looking forward to have a new terminal. So we have there is a web terminal, very like famous and maybe the most installable dev tool at the moment on OpenExchange. And so you want to introduce a new one, okay? So that's looking forward. And while we don't have any more questions, so so still waiting. I pass a request from my colleague, from Guillaume Renier, who is looking for a dev tool that will improve the load of DDL and SQL statements. Because currently you need to, so the way you can import DDL and SQL is using Iris terminal first and then object script command.
Actually, already my tool can do it.
So let's see. So anyway, so this is the request. And yeah,
I would say in general, if this applies to that tool and also all others, it would be nice to see user interfaces to wrap the command line functionality we have that shows the errors nicely and stops you before you get into a bad place, or helps you, uses the error to help you correct it. Or even if there's no useful error, that's good information for products. So we know, hey, our errors aren't useful for building good products.
Yes, also I will share the request from Benjamin Debo. So Benjamin suggests a tool that will collect, diff, and manage CPF files across instances. So I think we will share this maybe in the comments to the announcement. Okay. Any questions so far?
This is Oliver. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Oliver, fine. Good to hear.
Oh, okay, good. Question I have is, or what I think I'm going to work on is, a lot of times I get requests from InterSystems support to send them the messages.log file if we encounter some kind of a problem with one of the containers we are currently testing in development. And our environment is set up where it's not easy to just get the messages.log file of the volume where it's running. So what do you guys think to have a download button on the management portal where we can see messages.log? Would that be a useful feature?
Well, you're defining the fact that it's useful, right? You have a need for it. It's been a problem for you. So yeah, I'd say that's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually I would also share my request, my personal request. So sometimes I need the following feature, like source control for globals, if you wish. It's like, for example, if we could have a tool that says, okay, now I source control what all the globals that are being changed in a particular namespace or instance. And then, for example, I set up, I install a tool or something from like OpenExchange and see what globals it introduced in this namespace, because maybe some garbage or something like strange. So I'm just inventing the situation, but I think sometimes we really need to track the global changes in a particular namespace. I know that we can like, so it's transactions, yes. So we can follow the logs. I mean, so the right image journal. But I mean, so I think it could be doable, but there is no such tool yet. And of course, it's not all the time it is needed, and so there's some particular cases, but it would be great to have something like that. Yeah, Tim, thank you. Yeah, but sometimes you just don't know what global was changed. Sometimes could be thousands of globals in a particular namespace, and like some kind of diff would be great to have.
Evgeny, just to get you right, do you think about something like a browser on journals? Since the journal writes all changes, and it's definitely far too much. And there what I was thinking of, just to understand that you need is going into the journal and find specific changes or trace them or something like this. Is it that direction?
Yes and no. I mean, actually, Timothy sent a comment in the chat, which actually kind of satisfies my request. So I would consider global as a resource of like a source control. Yes. So, for example, like again with this ensemble thing. So there are some globals that are being changed. Yeah, and or like it's just an example. And so when I start this tool working in a particular namespace, and then like I say, all the globals should be in a source control, yeah, right, or like change. And then when when I export what changed, it will export it in the files, and I see the changes. So I have like a history of changes of data change in a particular namespace, something like that.
So I just sent in the chat separately and relatedly one of my ideas on InterSystems ideas that's flagged as a community opportunity for journal file analysis and visualization. So say I suddenly have this explosion of journal files. Why? Right now, there's some very messy ways of going and trying to figure that out. But I think that that's definitely an opportunity in itself. Independent of, I mean, as a side effect of that could be you could see what globals have changed on a system. But there are a lot of use cases other than that for being able to get insight from what's going on in a journal file.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So it looks useful. And also John Murray shared that Diltanji can source control globals already. That's cool.
And specifically subtrees of globals. So if you want to manage just part of a global, you know, then you can say only this bit of the global I want to manage, and I want to transfer this bit from that namespace to the other, but that bit needs to go later. So, you know, you've got that capability.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just echo Tim's idea there. The journal management is a source of problems for many, many, many customers. So we see that a lot. So anything to make that better. That's what I was getting at with my idea about, you know, warning you before your system crashes. Things like journal analysis and visualization falls right into that category. Be very useful.
The thing is with journals, it's very slow actually. Like when you try to analyze it, it's like takes a lot of time. So it's even like not so quickly to analyze. It's like requires time.
Mhm.
Even especially for big systems where these issues is appear when you have like hundreds of journals per day. So yeah.
It's not an easy
So what I'd
process.
imagine is something like using the %sys.journal.file API and IRSBIQ and being able to pull a journal file into that. Obviously, you're not going to put every single entire full global reference because that would be crazy because there are going to be tons of them. But extracting some level of depth or maybe an intelligent level of depth in the global reference and getting like a count of sets for a given global or something like that.
Mhm. Thank you. It looks like there are a lot of scenarios around it. So yeah, around globals management. But even just for development, just in case, to be sure that when you install something, it's like your own project, and there are no unneeded globals, change it in the target system. That's important to know, right? And also, if when you install something from Open Exchange or ZPM or IPM, you could be curious what globals are being changed. Yes, so what is in like intrusion to your system, and specifically in data.
I like this. I like Tim's idea about journal visualization. I think that there's some kind of border between whether it's a tool that developers use or whether it's an operational tool. And yeah, maybe dev tools will count, but you know, it's down to you know, whether that's more in the area of operational.
And I think it's becoming more and more important now with columnar stores, where you have not just your typical one or two globals, but a bunch of globals that you do have to keep track on. And therefore, I think it's necessary to do something that is more handy than our actual journal that was, well, it was designed for a few globals and yeah, not that dimension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tim, thanks for sharing this. Yeah, also what I like about this particular contest that, and actually thanks Raj highlighting this, that we welcome developers to use ideas portal for the inspiration. Anyway, so I continue with the ideas portal approach that you can get inspired in the ideas portal with the community opportunity option. And also, if you don't see also we encourage you to share ideas there if you want the community to like develop something that you have some a need in developer tools. You are very welcome. So all will be triaged, and we have a very active, vibrant community of developers, and hopefully your idea will be implemented.
For sure. All right. Thank you all so much. Great conversation. And I think this conversation is a great example of why it's important to have a developer community and to have topics like this for contests. So I can feel the excitement. Thank you for joining, everyone.